Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and I have a beautiful jelly roll all in black and white. And what's different with this? There's no variation in the colors. It's all the same white, all the same black. And I'm going to pair it up with this great green fabric, and it has a little black polka dot in it, and it's going to be quite the zinger to go along with this. And what I'm going to make is the jelly roll race pattern. So the jelly roll has 20 white and 20 black. Start with 6 long strips, 2.5 inches, the whole width of the fabric, and cut them all into different size rectangles, but do not have anything less than 4 inches. The spot will be too small when you get them done. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew the strips together on the short sides. So we're going to have one very, very, very long strip because we're going to sew them all together. And in between each piece, you're going to sew one of the zinger fabrics. Let me show you this setup. I'm going to have these small pieces that I've cut right on my machine bed. And on a table beside me, I'm going to have my white and my black strips. And that way I can grab them and just keep sewing. And the other thing will be 2 scraps of fabric. And the little scraps of fabric are going to be my leaders and enders. And you'll see as I go along on how easy it's going to make this go. I'm also going to use 1 clamp. Now this is optional, but it's going to save you some time. You can use any kind of clamp at all. One more thing that I like to do is mark the center of my machine. So I'm going to take the tape and I'm going to match it up with the needle and have it go all the way straight down, following your line on your bed. And make sure it's trimmed off so it's not in the way for the feet. It doesn't matter how wide your tape is, you're going to be following the line towards this side. Then, to sew these together, it is going to be a breeze. The very first thing I do is I sew on top of my scrap fabric. And I sew just coming off of the end a couple of stitches. The next will be grabbing one of your strips and bring it to the machine and make sure that the good side is up, because we're going to put the good side of the zinger fabric down. Place that small piece of fabric up on the top so that right sides are matching. And you're going to be able to make sure that both of the selvages are out. And you're going to sew from that point all the way down to that point. And you're going to be able to see that it's square just with your own eye. And once you have them matched up, just take it, turn it, and this fabric is not going to be in your way. You're going to be able to just hold that out of the way and put that needle right in that intersection. And then you're going to be able to line up that intersection with that line. The line, of course, that's going closest to the arm of the bed. Then you're going to be able to sew watching this line. You won't need to watch your needle, and what you're going to do is just have that intersection follow that line. This is the area you need to watch. And I'm just watching that that is going all the way along that line. And then I'm going to be able to come right at that point of that intersection. The next thing I'm going to do is come off of that by a couple of stitches, just stick in my next piece of fabric and stitch over top of that. Now I'm going to be able to reach behind the machine and trim this fabric off. And I can take off my first end. And do you see how we've come right from one corner all the way down to the next? When this top fabric is pulled back, it is in a perfect line and it gives you that lovely angle. And right at the machine, you're going to be able to just take a pair of scissors and trim off this extra. Trim that little bit off in the corner and just trim down. And it doesn't have to be a 1/4 inch. Then you're going to trim off the little corner. And right here, you're just going to be able to finger press this. So we do not need to take it to the iron. And make sure that the fabric is right side up. Get your next strip, which is going to be the opposite, which is the white. Make sure that you have the right side touching the right side and place it right on top. And when you place that white on top, make sure that the selvage is way out so you can trim that off, and then leave a little bit of green. And you're going to be able to square this up right at the machine by using your eye again. Make sure your scrappy's out of the way. I put my foot down, I take one stitch, then I'm going to be able to line this up. So again, I can follow that line right at that point, not looking at the needle or the foot. My eye is going to be following that little intersection. And sew right to the end. Once I'm off, sew on another scrap of fabric. And take the scissors and trim off that little point. By doing it this way, you've cut off that selvage, so that selvage is not going to be in the quilt. Finger press the seams, both going towards that center piece. And that is how it's going to look throughout the entire piece. Now this is where the clip comes in handy. Because you're going to be sewing a lot together, you are going to have one massive mound of strips. I like to take my very first piece and clip it to my counter. And that way when I go to get it, I will know where it is. Once you get going, this is very fast and quick. What saves time is your little mark and those little scraps of fabric, because you don't have to stop and pull your thread out and trim it. You trim as you go. And when you're done, you're going to have a nice big pile of all of these pieces sewn together, and they're going to have all different sizes in between. This is the very last one, and I have the very first one marked. I'm going to put the two of those together. And this is why I marked the first piece, because it's easy for me to find now. You need to get your right sides and match them together. Take one of the pieces and cut off anywhere between 17 and 20 inches. Now I know you're going to be tempted to want to take this and straighten it out, but you really don't need to. You can work with it just from this pile. Match so the right sides are touching, and you're going to sew this entire pile together following one edge. And as you're sewing along and you come to the end, you will notice that you have this loop at the end, but it's going to probably be very, very twisted. Just take it and get the ends so you can have two edges nice and flat together. Have the raw edges matching, and you're going to just cut that. So put the scissors in and just snip it. And by doing that, you're now going to be able to untangle both of the edges and finish stitching right off to the edge. So here's the end that I just finished, and here's the end that I started with. So now I'm going to be able to open up these strips of 2 and sew all the way down. So I've taken that one big piece and I fold it in half, and I'm going to be stitching down, though it's going to be very, very long. And when I come to the end, chances are I'm still going to have a little bit of a twist. And just straighten it out, match up the raw edges, put your scissors in and just cut that seam apart. Untwist them and finish sewing. And the strip sets are now 4. Open them up so you have the right sides touching, and sew one edge all the way down right to the bottom again. The strip set is going to get bigger and the length is going to get smaller. When you come to the end, cut along that fold. Now we have 16, and I'm sure you know what we're going to do next. Fold it in half again and sew along the one edge. When we come to the end, trim along the fold. You're done sewing all the rows together. Now you can take it to the iron and press it. Now that it's all pressed, we need to square it up. Fold it in half along one of the seams. And you're going to use that seam line as your guide to square up the sides. You will not have it matching exactly, so you're going to have to trim off all of the little extra ends. And I'm going to be able to do the same to the other side. Now we're going to add another border. So measuring, I'm going to be able to put that first border on at 2.5 inches. So this was my take on the Jelly Roll Race pattern. What's fun about this pattern is it doesn't matter if you use the same fabrics, it will always turn out different. And it took one jelly roll that had 20 blacks and 20 whites in it and 1 yard of the green, and I was done in an afternoon. It was a fun project to make, and I do hope that you give it a try. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.